a profession where compassion meets code, where every heartbeat is measured and every hoofprint carries meaning. It's a world where science does not conquer nature, but partners with it. Welcome to Springfield Career Insights, where purpose becomes profession. Tonight, we enter the wild, guided not by maps, but by mission. Veterinary and Wildlife Science at Springfield Research University isn't just biology. It's the blueprint for environmental healing, animal dignity, and continental innovation. And to help us unpack this formidable program, we are joined by the architect himself, Professor Dr. Godfrey Gandawa. Professor, welcome and good evening.
Thank you, Advocate, and good evening. Good evening to our viewers. It's a pleasure to bring this transformative journey into focus.
Professor, let's begin with the heart. What inspired the creation of the Veterinary and Wildlife Science program at Springfield Research University, and what mission does it serve today?
Thank you, Advocate. This program wasn't born from convenience. It was summoned by necessity. Across our continent, animals die in silent deaths. Ecosystems fracture without witness. And knowledge, true knowledge, is imported instead of rooted. Springfield Research University could not remain a spectator. We envisioned a degree that did more than prepare practitioners. It prepares protectors. The mission is clear: to equip bold minds with scientific mastery, ecological conscience, and sovereign responsibility. Veterinary and Wildlife Science at SRU is our answer to a fractured food system, zoonotic threats, dwindling biodiversity, and the overlooked dignity of life, both animal and environmental. We are not training graduates. We are commissioning guardians of health, of heritage, of habitat. Because in every surgical incision, every conservation policy, every animal heartbeat, there lies a chance to restore what humanity has neglected. Springfield does not teach science in isolation. We teach science in context, in culture, in duty. This program is the pulse of the continent's healing, and our students are its first responders.
Thank you, Professor. Professor, let's begin with the foundation. What makes the Bachelor of Science in Veterinary and Wildlife Science unlike any other program in the region?
Thank you, Advocate. The answer is not found in the modules alone, but in the heartbeat behind themselves. This program is unlike any other because it was engineered not in a vacuum, but in response to Africa's ecological reality, our veterinary gaps, and our sovereign ambition to educate for impact, not imitation. So at Springfield Research University, we did not borrow blueprints. We authored our own. We fused the veterinary science with the wildlife stewardship. We didn't isolate livestock from biodiversity. We unified them. Our students don't just learn how to treat illnesses. They learn how to interrogate ecosystems, how to read the land, how to intervene with both compassion and competence. We designed laboratories for discovery, but we also sent our students into sanctuaries, farms, conservation zones, and communities. Their classroom moves with them. from microscope to mountain trail. No other program in the region places interns beside marine ecologists on Monday and veterinary surgeons on Wednesday. No other curriculum teaches physiology along sustainability or genetics besides indigenous habitat assessment. We are raising a new breed of scientists, not caged by convention, not trained for export, but equipped for sovereignty, conservation, and continental repair. This is not just a degree. It's Springfield's declaration that we will heal with knowledge, preserve with science, and lead with vision.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Professor. From anatomy to aquaculture, it's a complex matrix. How did you curate such a multidisciplinary curriculum? And what real-world problems does it prepare graduates to solve?
Thank you, Advocate. Complexity wasn't the obstacle. It was the compass. The goal was never to teach parts in isolation, but to assemble a living system of knowledge that mirrors interconnectedness of nature itself. We curated this curriculum by asking one radical question. What does a graduate need to not only diagnose a sick animal, but heal a broken ecosystem? The answer led us across domains: biology, pathology, ecology, nutrition, genetics, aquaculture, epidemiology, behavioral science. So each module is a strand in a scientific braid designed for continental relevance. From anatomy to aquaculture, every element was chosen to reflect Africa's urgent realities: livestock vulnerability, marine system degradation, food insecurity, zoonotic threats, habitat collapse. Our graduates don't just treat, they anticipate, they innovate, they intervene. They leave this program equipped to solve problems that don't fit inside a single lab coat. Problems that demand cross-disciplinary thinking and ethical agency. Whether it's safeguarding fisheries against overexploitation, managing infectious diseases outbreaks in livestock, designing sustainable breeding systems, or rehabilitating wildlife from trauma. Our graduates know what to do and why it matters. Because this isn't just veterinary training, it's ecological leadership sculpted in academic fire.
Thank you, Professor. You speak of academic excellency, societal impact, and cutting-edge research as your program pillars. How do these converge in the classroom and field to shape not just graduates, but guardians of animal health and ecosystem resilience?
Thank you, Advocate. When we speak of pillars, we don't mean categories. We mean convictions. So academic excellency is our backbone, not excellency for prestige, but for precision. For ensuring our students understand the molecular logic of a disease just as sharply as the political ecology behind its spread. Their minds are shaped by rigor, not rote learning, but critical inquiry that challenges assumptions. Societal impact is our campus. Every lecture, every case study, every field assignment is designed not just to inform, but to equip students to intervene. We teach anatomy with empathy, pathology with policy awareness, and conservation with community integration. Our students are trained to measure outcomes not in grades, but in healing, prevention, and empowerment. And cutting-edge research. That's our oxygen. We embed students in live investigations, genetic mapping, zoonotic surveillance, population dynamics. They don't merely read research, they generate it. They don't wait for progress, they spark it. These pillars converge in every dissection lab, every sanctuary track, every data set that analyzes in our wildlife corridors. Because we are not creating rivals, we are commissioning guardians. Guardians who understand that an ecosystem's resilience depends not on textbooks, but on science infused with stewardship. So, at Springfield, the classroom is a proving ground. The field is a crucible. And the graduate is a sentiment for a healthier tomorrow.
Let's take a commercial break and stay tuned.
To every student who stepped forward, to every dreamer who dared to ask, and to all who walked the red carpet of purpose at the Springfield Expo stand, we thank you. Across regions, classrooms and corridors, you brought this career expo to life. You saw more than brochures. You encountered a mission. Because Springfield isn't a display, it's a dispatch. And our dispatch is not someday, it's now. We are taxiing to the runway. We will soon be airborne. And when we rise, we'll be cruising at 38,000 miles above the ground, above doubt, above delay, above dead industries. You've seen Education 6.0 in action. You've explored our AI career modules, decoded the Smart Innovation Hub, felt the heartbeat of STEMmer, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, medicine and automation. And now, your journey begins. Because you don't just leave with a memory, you leave with a passport to life. I am May. I speak for the President, His Excellency Dr Godfrey Gandawa, and he is calling on you to join the Dispatch Network, to step forward, to stand out, to take your place in the system we're building for Africa and the world. Springfield isn't just a university, it's a sovereign launchpad, and your mission is waiting. Springfield Research University. Join us, be STEMatized. Your passport to life is activated. Applications open now. Dispatch begins soon. Once the gates close, we will be airborne. Our altitude, 38,000 miles above hesitation. Miss this flight, and your journey to success is delayed, until you board the next STEMmer mission. But why wait for destiny when Springfield lets you design it? Learn more at the Springfield Hub or www.springfieldresearch.university. Springfield Research University. The globe is here. Where are you?
Welcome back. Let's continue with our discussion. It's one thing to teach anatomy and physiology. It's another to embed ethics, advocacy, and biodiversity into the DNA of the degree. Why was that holistic approach non-negotiable?
Thank you, Advocate. Because we are not educating machines. We are cultivating minds with conscience. Anatomy teaches us structure. Physiology reveals function. But without ethics, we misunderstand purpose. Without advocacy, we risk neutrality in the face of extinction. Without biodiversity, we train healers in systems that are dying. This holistic approach was never optional, it was obligatory. Because science devoid of ethics is just technique, and technique without heart builds institutions that serve no one. At Springfield Research University, we said, if we are going to teach young scientists to treat life, they must first learn to value it, not in isolation, but with ecosystems cultures, and legacies. That's why our curriculum includes conservation as activism, case studies as dilemmas, and fieldwork not just as exploration, but as stewardship. Our students are trained not just to heal a dog's wound, but to ask why the species is disappearing, why communities distrust veterinary care, and how healing one animal relates to saving 10,000 others in the wild. We embed ethics because it is the spine of wisdom. We instill advocacy because silence cannot protect the vulnerable. We honor biodiversity because every species is a stanza in the continent's poem. At SRU, graduates must learn to speak that language.
That's great, Professor. Thank you. The internships are immersive, fieldwork is rigorous. What kind of students thrive in this ecosystem, and what do they become by year 4?
Thank you, Advocate. This ecosystem doesn't reward spectators. It shapes architects. The students who thrive here aren't just academically gifted. They are curious, resilient, and ready to trade comfort for conviction. They are the ones who arrive with questions, not just about disease pathology, but about conservation politics, food systems, and ethical accountability. They aren't afraid of mud on their boots, blood on their gloves, or data that doesn't fit in textbooks. They come willing to dissect, to track, to fail, and to refine. In this program, fieldwork isn't a weekend excursion. It's an awakening. Our students tag wildlife in remote valleys, diagnose livestock in underserved communities, and run diagnostics behind seasoned veterinarians and marine ecologists. Internships immerse them in real-world tension, where success is measured by outcomes, not attendance. And by year 4, they are different, not just competent, but calibrated. They think like scientists, they respond like clinicians, and they advocate like policymakers. They don't just ask what job they will take. They will ask what systems they will reform. At Springfield Research University, these graduates don't leave us. They launch from us, ready to serve, challenge, and restore. Because once they have studied in this crucible science and stewardship, you are no longer merely employable. You are indispensable.
Thank you, Professor. You have spoken about animal management not just as a technical skill, but as a moral obligation. What is the role of ethics and ecological justice in this program?
Thank you, Advocate. When we speak of animal management, we do not speak of cages and clinics alone. We speak of conscience. So in this program, ethics is not a footnote. It is the framework. Because managing life, whether it breathes in a laboratory, grazes on communal land, or hides deep in the canopy, demands more than knowledge. It demands integrity. We teach our students that every dosage carries duty, every incision carries responsibility, and every intervention ripples through both species and society. Ecological justice often then is our compass. It reminds us that conservation must never be colonial, that veterinary outreach cannot be ignored, that outreach cannot ignore access, that wildlife protection must honor both diversity and community livelihood. Our students grapple with questions not found in textbooks. Who owns a rescued elephant? What rights does a farmer have when predators threaten their herd? How do we protect species without exploiting stories? Because in Springfield's classroom, justice is not abstract. It is anatomical. It lives in every case study, every field report, every ethical debate. And we don't shy away from moral discomfort. We lean into it. Because if science avoids the hard questions, then science has lost its soul.
Thank you, Professor. Let's take a commercial break and stay tuned.
To every student who stepped forward, to every dreamer who dared to ask, and to all who walked the red carpet of purpose at the Springfield Expo stand, we thank you. Across regions, classrooms and corridors, you brought this career expo to life. You saw more than brochures. You encountered a mission. Because Springfield isn't a display, it's a dispatch. And our dispatch is not someday, it's now. We are taxiing to the runway. We will soon be airborne. And when we rise, we'll be cruising at 38,000 miles above the ground, above doubt, above delay, above dead industries. You've seen Education 6.0 in action. You've explored our AI career modules, decoded the Smart Innovation Hub, felt the heartbeat of STEMmer, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, medicine and automation. And now, your journey begins. Because you don't just leave with a memory, you leave with a passport to life. I am May. I speak for the President, His Excellency Dr Godfrey Gandawa, and he is calling on you to join the Dispatch Network, to step forward, to stand out, to take your place in the system we're building for Africa and the world. Springfield isn't just a university, it's a sovereign launchpad, and your mission is waiting. Springfield Research University. Join us, be STEMatized. Your passport to life is activated. Applications open now. Dispatch begins soon. Once the gates close, we will be airborne. Our altitude, 38,000 miles above hesitation. Miss this flight, and your journey to success is delayed, until you board the next STEMmer mission. But why wait for destiny when Springfield lets you design it? Learn more at the Springfield Hub or www.springfieldresearch.university. Springfield Research University. The globe is here. Where are you?
Welcome back. Let's continue with our discussion. Eswatini faces real challenges: wildlife preservation, rural veterinary care, food systems vulnerability. How does SRU turn theory into direct impact?
Thank you, Advocate. Theory at Springfield is never ornamental. It is operational. We do not teach for applause. We teach for application. And in Eswatini, the stakes are too real to hide behind abstraction. Wildlife preservation here is not hypothetical. It's a daily negotiation between dwindling habitats and developmental pressures. Rural veterinary care is not a journal article. It's a farmer holding a dying calf with no access to diagnosis. Food systems vulnerability is not a trend. It's children eating today what they may not find tomorrow. So, how do we respond? By forging education into intervention. Our students engage in active field studies, monitoring endangered species, assessing habitat health, and designing real-time conservation strategies. We embed them in mobile veterinary units that serve remote communities, applying diagnostics, vaccines, and clinical care where infrastructure cannot reach. In our labs, students map zoonotic transmission routes and test strategies for outbreak prevention. In our farms, they apply nutritional science and animal husbandry to stabilize production and prevent herd loss. We partner with government ministries, non-governmental organizations, and indigenous communities, not as consultants, but as collaborators, because knowledge must kneel beside the people it seeks to empower. Springfield turns theory into impact because we teach science with empathy, deliver it with urgency, and direct it with clarity. Our classroom walls are permeable. They extend into the valleys, the villages, the wild, and our students don't wait for change. They walk towards it. Our graduates live not just with knowledge, they live with a code that binds their technical skills to the dignity of the lives they touch.
That's great, Professor. Thank you. In year 3, students choose from 5 specializations, from genetics and metabolism to molecule, cell, and functioning. Was this diversity driven by academic demand or by national strategic need?
Yeah, thank you, Advocate. The diversity in our year 3 specializations is not cosmetic. It's calculated. It was driven not by trend, but by truth. Academic demand is real. Young scholars crave depth, relevance, and challenge. But beyond that, we asked a harder question. What does Eswatini need? What does Africa require from its scientists? Not in theory, but in action. From livelihood vulnerabilities to marine resource depletion, from zoonotic outbreaks to genetic bottlenecks, we are facing layered problems that cannot be solved with shallow training. So, yes, genetics and metabolism respond to our need for smarter breeding, disease resilience, and food optimization. Adaptation, health, and behavior equips professionals to manage not just disease, but recovery, welfare, and post-trauma reintegration. Global and sustainable systems confront the climate crisis head-on, preparing students to reimagine aquaculture, sustainability audits, and ecological diplomacy. Molecule, cell, and functioning then pushes the frontier of molecular medicine, neuroscience, and pathogen-host interface. And in nutrition, well, that's the backbone. If food fails, life follows. In short, these specializations are not academic excess. They are strategic scaffolding for continental repair. Every stream is a surgical response to a national wound. We curated diversity with duty. So when our students choose a path, they are choosing where they will fight for tomorrow.
Thank you, Professor. Can you give us a glimpse into the kind of careers each specialization channels students towards, especially in emerging African economies?
Thank you, Advocate. Certainly. Each specialization in our program is not merely academic. It's vocational architecture. We design them as launchpads into careers that don't just exist. They are urgently needed across emerging African economies. So track number 1, that's genetics and biodiversity. Graduates here become genetic analysts, biodiversity researchers, or agricultural biotechnologists. They are essential in labs mapping disease resistance, in conservation centers preserving endangered genomes, and on farms optimizing livestock traits for resilience. Nutrition and metabolism. These students evolve in livestock nutritionists, feed technologists, or aquaculture health consultants. Their careers empower rural economies by refining production systems, preventing metabolic disorders, and enhancing nutritional protocols for both animals and sustainability. Then global sustainable systems. A powerful stream. These graduates step into roles as sustainable auditors, marine systems managers, and policy advisors. They are the ones governments turn to when evaluating the ecological footprint of livestock, fishery planning, or drafting food systems legislation that must balance growth with survival. Then, adaptation, health, and behavior. Here, students channel into careers as wildlife rehabilitators, veterinary behaviorists, or welfare consultants. They work in sanctuaries, post-conflict ecological zones, and emerging mental health infrastructures for animals recovering from trauma or captivity. Then, molecule, cell, and function. These are our frontier scientists, future molecular veterinarians, immunology researchers, and neurophysiology experts. They power innovations in veterinary pharmacology, genetic therapy, and microbiome health, sectors that will define disease control and regenerative care in Africa's next chapter. Advocate, every specialization was conceived not as a course, but as a continental answer. Our graduates don't just fit into jobs, they forge sectors. And in Springfield's design, each degree is a scalpel. We give them the science, and they deliver the healing.
Wow, this is amazing, Professor. Thank you. There is something poetic about teaching biodiversity conservation alongside veterinary surgery. Is the goal to train not just scientists, but guardians of life?
Indeed, Advocate. That pairing isn't accidental. It's philosophical. Biodiversity conservation teaches respect for the web of life. Veterinary surgery teaches precision in preserving it. So together, they form a curriculum that isn't about curing, but about caring. Not just about mending a limb, but about protecting a landscape. When our students study surgical technique in the morning and ecosystem fragility in the afternoon, they begin to see that healing is bigger than surgeries. It is stewardship. That every incision they make on a species must consider its place in an ecological symphony. This program isn't sculpting technicians, it's shaping sentinels, guardians who understand that science is only as noble as life itself. That the pulse they monitor in a recovery ward is connected to the hum of a rainforest and the silence of an endangered plain. At Springfield, the scalpel and the sanctuary belong in the same sentence, because a true healer doesn't just treat animals. They defend the environment that sustains it. So, yes, Advocate, we are training guardians of wilderness, of wellness. and of the fragile poetry that binds them together.
Thank you, Professor. Let's take a break and listen to a song called Echoes of Healing.
Through the halls of Springfield, voices rise, seeking hope beyond the pain in their eyes. In the science of the soul, we break through, turning knowledge into healing pure and true. We stand together, hearts set free. Springfield lives as strong as can be. Through the trials, through the fight, mental health shines in the morning light. Every heartbeat tells a tale untold. Through research and care, futures unfold. Breaking silence, lifting voices high. Springfield stands where the echoes fly. Beyond the fear, beyond the past, we rise with strength. We learn so fast. The power of thought, the will to mend. A journey of care that never ends. We stand together, hearts set free. Springfield lives as strong as can be. Through the trials, through the fight, mental health shines in the morning light.
Welcome back. Let's continue with our discussion. Eswatini's ecosystems face threats from infectious diseases to habitat loss. How does this program respond to those realities with both scientific clarity and cultural relevance?
Thank you, Advocate. The threats facing Eswatini's ecosystems are not abstract. They are immediate, complex, and deeply woven into our societal fabric. Infectious diseases decimate herds, habitat loss disrupts migration patterns, and human-wildlife conflicts escalate under pressure. These aren't academic case studies. These are lived emergencies. That is precisely why Springfield Research University designed this program with both scientific precision and cultural resonance. Scientifically, we respond by training students to track disease vectors, model ecological stresses, and analyze zoonotic transmissions with cutting-edge methods. They learn epidemiology not just to diagnose, but to predict that and prevent. They study biodiversity not just to catalog species, but to restore balance. But we also recognize that science without culture is colonization. So we teach our students to engage with indigenous knowledge systems, local farming practices, and conservation traditions that have protected these lands for generations. So our curriculum honors not just the microscope, but the storytelling, not just the textbook, but the ancestral wisdom. Fieldwork takes them into real communities where solutions require humanity, dialogue, and contextual intelligence. Whether working with traditional cattle herders facing tick-borne diseases or collaborating on rewilding projects that must account for cultural land use, our graduates learn to heal without imposing. This program is a bridge between data and dignity, between global best practice and local relevance, because to heal Eswati's ecosystems, we must speak both the language of science and the language of the soil.
Thank you, Professor. You highlight zoonotic disease, biosecurity, and public health. How do you prepare students to operate at the interface of veterinary science and global health diplomacy?
Thank you, Advocate. That interface you mentioned, it's no longer a distant horizon. It's the front line. It's where wildlife meets policy, where animal illness signals human risk, where science becomes a negotiation. Our program prepares students to navigate that threshold not as technicians, but as informed actors in global health diplomacy. It starts with zoonotic intelligence. Students map disease transmission between species, analyze epidemiological data, and study pathogen behaviors in both livestock and wildlife populations. But it doesn't end at the microscope. We move them into the world of biosecurity, teaching them how to draft quarantine protocols, assess import-export risks, and respond to transboundary outbreaks. They don't just learn containment. They learn prevention, policy framing, and inter-agency coordination. Public health, then, is their broader canvas. They engage with community surveillance methods, digital reporting systems, and global health frameworks. From the One Health model to international reporting via IOE and WHO channels. We train them to speak the language of science with the syntax of diplomacy, to translate field observations into policy action, to draft advisories that make governments listen, and to defend animal health as a pillar of national stability. Our students are not just future veterinarians. They are future advisors to ministries, collaborators with the global agencies, defenders of biosurveillance infrastructure, and the architects of equitable health policies. Because zoonoses respect no borders, and neither should our graduates.
Thank you, Professor. Many institutions teach animal science as a silo. You've made it a platform for sustainability, innovation, and regional sovereignty. Was that a philosophical shift or a strategic imperative?
Advocate, it was both a philosophical awakening and a strategic revolution. We saw what siloed science had done. Fragmented ecosystems, disconnected disciplines, and graduates trained for employment, but not equipped for impact. At Springfield, we chose to reject isolation, not because it was trendy, but because the future demanded integration. Animal science cannot sit apart from climate resilience, community health, or food systems innovation. So we rebuilt the discipline, not as a box, but as a bridge. Yes, it was philosophical, because we believe science must serve sovereignty. We believe a continent cannot borrow solutions indefinitely. Africa must engineer, innovate, and legislate through its own academic arteries. And But it was not, but it was also strategic, because sustainability isn't a slogan here. It is survival. And innovation isn't luxury, it's urgency. Our curriculum threads animal anatomy with aquaculture resilience, epidemiology with economic development, and molecular biology with policy design. We designed this program not to impress, but to intervene. So when we teach science, we do it in context, in crisis, in culture. Our students don't just study life, they safeguard it. And that shift from silo to sovereignty is Springfield's most unapologetic decision.
Thank you, Professor. Professor, careers born from this degree stretch from clinical practice to conservation, from academia to quarantine services. What kind of professional character must a graduate carry to lead in those worlds?
Thank you, Advocate. The world this degree opens is vast, but it does not belong to the faint-hearted. To lead across clinical practice, conservation corridors, academic labs, and biosecurity frontlines, a graduate must carry more than credentials. They must carry character. We forge professionals who are both precise and principled. They must have the rigor of a scientist, the empathy of a healer, and the clarity of a communicator, and the courage of a reformer. In the clinic, they must remain calm when life hangs by a thread. In the wild, they must earn trust not just from animals but from communities and ecosystems. In the lab, they must be relentless in pursuit of solutions, yet ethical in every trial. And on the quarantine line, they must be vigilant, diplomatic, and unwavering in public protection. It takes tenacity to walk miles into remote villages for fieldwork, integrity to report what systems have failed, creativity to innovate in low-resource environments, and humility to know that real impact is often invisible to applause. This program does not produce employees. It crafts professionals with mission in their blood, those who understand that a disease controlled, a species protected, or a policy corrected is a victory not for ego, but for life. At Springfield, the professional character we sculpt is not just capable, it is catalytic.
Thank you, Professor. Let's take a commercial break and stay tuned.
Join Springfield Research University, the university that shapes the future. Admissions for August, September 2025 are now open. Introducing Education 6.0, driven by STEMA, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, medicine, and automation to STEMatize, industrialize, and modernize, SIM. We offer innovative and industry-relevant undergraduate, master's, and doctoral programs. Leap ahead with SRU. Apply today at www.springfieldresearch.university or WhatsApp +268 7619 2898. Springfield Research University. The globe is here. Where are you?
Welcome back. Let's continue with our discussion. Looking forward, how do you envision your graduates influencing Africa's agricultural resilience, wildlife diplomacy, and scientific leadership over the next decade?
Thank you, Advocate. I see our graduates not merely stepping into roles. I see them redrawing them. In agriculture, they will be the architects of resilient food system, deploying genetic precision, nutritional science, and ecosystem modeling to stabilize yields and protect species. They will work not just in fields, but in policy chambers, transforming subsistence into sustainability. In wildlife diplomacy, they will become the interpreters of ecological agency, negotiating between governments, conservation bodies, and indigenous communities. Their signs will be the language spoken at climate summits and the conservation councils, defending biodiversity not with sentiment, but with strategy. In scientific leadership, they will lead not by replication, but by reimagination. They will birth new research institutions, rewrite veterinary protocols, and pilot One Health models that integrate human, animal, and environmental well-being. They will be the minds behind Africa's next diagnostic platforms, its wildlife restoration blueprints, its biosecurity legislation. And all of this with integrity, with cultural intelligence, with a spine forged in Springfield's crucible excellence. Advocate, I do not envision followers. I see reformers, healers, and voices that shift the continent narrative from reactive to proactive. Our graduates will not adapt to the future. They will redesign it.
That's amazing, Professor. Thank you. How does this degree reflect Springfield's philosophy to create not just employable graduates, but transformational practitioners?
Thank you, Advocate. Springfield was never built to produce graduates that fill vacancies. We were built to raise practitioners who fill voids, ethical voids, ecological voids, scientific voids. This degree reflects that philosophy in its very architecture. Every module, every internship, every debate, every dissection, it is curated not to create compliance, but to ignite capability. Our Veterinary and Wildlife Science program does not ask, can you treat this animal? It asks, can you restore this system, advocate for its protection, research its healing, and challenge its exploitation? We combine molecular diagnostics with mental health literacy. We teach aquatic ecology alongside policy advocacy. We embed students in farms and sanctuaries, but we also train them for boardrooms and field parliaments. Because transformation demands agility, it demands that our graduates don't just adapt to change, they instigate it. They don't just pass exams, they pass thresholds from student to sentinel, from technician to tactician. At Springfield, a practitioner isn't just skilled, they are sovereign. They don't wait for change, they craft it. They don't ask for permission, they arrive with solutions. And this degree is the forge, where knowledge becomes power and purpose becomes profession.
Thank you, Professor. If a prospective student is watching this interview right now, wondering whether this is their calling, what would you say to them?
Okay, to that student, I would say, listen to the pulse inside you. If you have ever looked into the eyes of an animal and seen a mystery that science must unveil, this is your path. If you have ever felt the heartbreak of a dying species, the urgency of a warming planet, or the beauty of a healed wound, this is your calling. This program is not for the curious alone. It is for the committed, for those who feel a deep responsibility to life in all its forms, who believe that intelligence is meant to serve, not just succeed. You will be challenged. You will be stretched. You will trek into the forest and sit in sterile labs. You will study molecules and speak to villagers. And you will discover that being a veterinarian, a wildlife scientist, or a conservationist is not a job. It's a vow. Springfield will equip you with knowledge, yes, but more than that, it will reveal the mission waiting in your chest. So if you are watching this wondering, let me be clear. The world needs you. And if you choose this path, we will walk with you all the way. Because healing ecosystems, advancing science, and protecting lives, that isn't a profession. It's a legacy.
Thank you, Professor, for an illuminating dialogue. Today, we didn't just explore a degree, we uncovered a mission. Science with soul, biology with vision. A classroom that becomes a continent's laboratory. At Springfield, Veterinary and Wildlife Science is not just education. It's ecological diplomacy in motion. To our viewers, thank you for journeying with us. Join us next week as we continue unlocking careers, character, and continental leadership. Only on Springfield Career Insights. I am Advocate Clarence, your host. Good night, and may your purpose keep moving forward.
Siyakupuga tikitile futsanza lunga kiwa hey 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 siyakupuga sonke siyavumelana ngemjulu lomuhle sonke similela